Welcome back to the Street Angel podcast with myself, Angelo Thomas. Okay, so today we are talking about grounding. As you would have guessed, with the title, Ground Control Do You Copy? Now, I wanted to talk about grounding today because it's something that I have been needing to do a lot myself. Well, actually more so anchoring. But it's something that I have actually recommended to a lot of people that I've come in contact with over the past couple of weeks. Is that coincidence? Maybe it's me having that effect with them, but I'm sure it's not. They were like that before I saw them. So I wanted to talk about grounding, and then maybe even touch on the more advanced concept of anchoring. So, when I was jotting down some ideas in my head, and by the way, if I'm a bit slow or a bit out of it today, I burnt some Palo Santo in my room last night, and I don't normally burn it, but I burnt it last night, and the smell this morning is making me have a most cracking headache, sore throat and ears, and I'm like, this stuff is like heavy duty stuff to get rid of like demons and devils and evil spirits, and I'm having a mild, panic thinking, am I evil? But I'm sure I'm not. I'm sure I'm just sensitive to the energy, or, my friend Sonia was just telling me, maybe you're just sensitive to where the wood came from, and I was like, yeah, that could be less dramatic. So yeah, bear with me. So, grounding. Why am I talking about grounding? Well, first of all, this is your reminder that whenever you're listening to this, even if you listen to it once or you're listening to it 100 times, to ground yourself. Take that conscious moment to just ground yourself today, right here, right now. Another reason why I, wanted to actually talk about grounding and a little bit about anchoring was that I think, if you followed some of my previous podcasts as well as some of my posts that I've done over the years, I get a bit, there's a two-pronged attack here. I've got to try and combine my thoughts. Like I told you, this Palo Santo. With spirituality and new age practices and, energy work in general, let's call it energy work or soulful work, becoming more popular, we're starting to get carried away with ourselves. We're starting to get really super excited. We're starting to kind of outdo each other with, who can come up with the newest information, who can channel something that no one else has heard of, who can talk about something that no one else has heard with, who can come up with the next form of energy healing, to put a little circled R or circled C around them and, and then go and certify everyone and make squillions of dollars. We're always, not we, but many people out there are talking about break free the matrix, 5D this, and it feels like we're just getting really ahead of ourselves when we just need to sometimes take it back to basics. And, grounding and or anchoring is one of the things that I actually teach people when I do spiritual development work in a much more intense way. Obviously, we're just touching on it today. Because, if you aren't grounded or at least anchored to, wherever you place that intention to be, then there's no use doing this spiritual work. None whatsoever. So you can go and do as many abundance courses, you can go and do as much workshops, you can do breathing exercises, you can do whatever the next fad is to connect with your inner, spiritual wind wizard that you like. But if you're not grounded or anchored, it don't mean jack. I always feel that where true magic happens, where true magic with spirit happens, is in basic everyday actions. It's not big words, heavy concepts, or show pony stuff. So that's why I thought, let's just take it down a notch. Let's, remove ourselves from that need to fill a space and, with words, and just stop today and ground. So, what is grounding? Well, let's start from the beginning. I actually did write a blog about this many years ago. So, which means it's like, it shows it's something that I'm really passionate about. And what I wrote in that, I'm paraphrasing because I don't like to read while I'm on screen. I like to wing it. But in electrical terms, the ground or earth is like a common return path for electrical currents. It's a direct physical connection to earth. So in a spiritual sense or an energetic sense, it's much the same thing. The ground or earth is what we use to return excess or negative energy through a direct connection to the earth, i.e. sticking your feet on the ground. You know, in a spirit work sense or energy work sense, grounding also anchors us to, you know, more strongly to the earth crystalline grid, so that, you know, we can actually travel to those higher realms or levels or dimensions or whatever we want to call them much more easier. And remember, those aren't spaces out there, they're places within. But anchoring or grounding to the here and the now means that we've got one foot here. When we travel inwards to do our inner work and we talk to spirit, we've got one foot there and we're balanced. Now, you know, I always say to people, you can go crazy, you know, Googling and asking people about how to ground, what to do, why does it work, how's it work. You know, think of it this way. Just trust that it works. Just start doing it. See for yourself how you go, and then maybe get into the bigger details of it. You know, there is that analogy sometimes around grounding where it's kind of like when you look at a tree can't grow as tall as it can without a really strong root base in the bottom. And that's what grounding helps for us. We're actually putting those energetic roots to the earth so that we can go higher. But I mean, in a practical everyday sense, it's negative ions released from the earth that take over too much of your positive ions and just generally just calm you the hell down. I mean, there's, you know, so let's talk about like the types of grounding. It's, I would have to say probably the best and the most easiest way to ground, and it's actually what I told someone yesterday, was because I saw them. I'm like, you need to breathe. But I mean, beyond that, it's go and stick your feet, and I mean bare feet, somewhere out in nature. You know, this can be dirt, it can be sand, it can be you know, wood chip, it can be grass. It can pretty much be anywhere where there is actual earth, you know. And when you think about it, you know, there are people, especially office workers, you know, you wear shoes with rubber soles, you're in an office building, you're pounding the concrete, you're in a car. Never once have you been earthed, actually put your feet back onto soil. And that's what this person said to me yesterday. They were like, well, to come to think of it, you know, they work in a salon, they come in a car, they walk on asphalt, and they live in an apartment. And they're feeling very out of it. So look, next time I see them, you know, hopefully they're listening today. So that would be even better. But, you know, building on this, like, I always believe that everyone believes this, you know, I'm not the first to claim it, and I certainly won't be the last. So I'm probably just building on what, you know, those who came before me. But, you know, nature heals us. It's something that when you feel very discombobulated and you feel very out of it, and, you know, this is very poignant for the current times. You know, we've just gone through the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse with what's going on and stuff. Don't need to talk about it moving forward. You know, we get crazy, we get our head spins, we get overwhelmed, we can't breathe, people are in our faces, people are just, you know, like I said, some people in the spiritual community just doing my head in because they're just too gung-ho about all these concepts that I don't feel they even know about. And you just think to yourself, I'm feeling very, very disconnected right now. Well, here's a simple solution. Stick your feet in the soil. Go and do some gardening. Go to the beach. Go for a walk. You know, I remember when I used to live in Darwin, when we'd go to the beach and there'll be the Mindle Beach Market, I would sit there on the beach, like on a towel, and I would stick my hands in the sand. And, you know, very discreetly, no one else would notice, but it was just having that connection to earth, watch the sunset come down, and just breathe. I don't know if anyone out there knows, but there is a concept in Japanese culture called Shinrin Yoku, which is actually called forest bathing. And it's something that a lot of proponents out there, you know, in Japan and across the world actually believe in, which builds on this idea around the healing concepts of nature, or the healing powers of nature, sorry. See, I'm very out of it. I need to ground now because of this power center. But yeah, Shinrin Yoku is the idea that, you know, people spend time to unplug. They don't take any electrical devices, and they go and spend time with nature. You know, they just might sit, they might journal, they might have a nap. Heck, they might even just go and sit with someone else and just enjoy the quiet time. It's something that I strongly recommend, and it's why people who have animals, generally, you know, there's studies doing, you know, where people with animals, they live longer, they stress less. I don't know how you could stress less with a French bulldog, I tell you what. But when they take their dog for a walk, they just go and sit in the park. They might go and throw a ball, or they might just go and sit outside with them. Besides the fact of that nature aspect, people don't also realize that dogs are very grounding too. I mean, I might joke about Lady Dijon, my Frenchie, but when I am very flustered, and I do, spirit mediums get flustered. We're not perfect. We're actually far from it. We're probably some of the most manic people you ever meet, if you think about it. But she knows it, and she will come and jump on my lap, and I'll just spend 5 minutes to just stop and be mindful in the moment. Say to her, how the hell did you get that scratch on your face? What have you been? Why do you stink? She will bring me back to reality, which brings me back to the second best way to ground, and that is to be mindful. Now, although I love Buddhism and I love the cultural, culture or the various different cultures of where it comes from and things like that, I am not saying mindful as in, go and meditate for an hour or do some of those practices which might not necessarily not relate to you, or be a little bit inappropriate too. But mindful more in the sense of coming back to here today, just being mindful of your surroundings. That's a really good technique to ground. It's something that my original Reiki master taught me is when you give a healing to someone, or when you actually, you don't do the healing, healers don't heal. When you hold the space and you channel the beautiful university energy through people, at the end, bring that person back. You just tap their feet. You ground their energy by, visualizing your hand, holding onto their foot and the energy going through you, going down to them. So you ground them, but then you've also got to ground yourself. So you look around, what's the clock say? You look around at, what music is on, if you put some music on. Is there a beautiful candle? What's that scent around you? Bring yourself back to the present. And I will also tell people too that when I've, in the past done energy healings on them, is to look around my room, to look around everywhere. Put your feet on the ground, have a drink of water. Is it cool water? Is it tap? Is it lukewarm? Is it sparkling? What's the time? Look at the weather. When you go into your car, what's the color of your car? I know it sounds inane and almost insanity inducing to pick everything out, but what it does is it brings you back to this moment, and it ensures that you are back anchored in this space. I say to people sometimes that, when you've had a bad day, and I mean, not a bad day, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like when you're flustered, you get home from work, or you've spent the day out it's busy. Your head's busy, you're exhausted, and you think to yourself, I just can't wind down. Some of the most basic activities you can do around the house are actually incredibly grounding. One of the things is like washing dishes. You washing dishes because you're in that very mundane act of, filling up the sink with water, putting in the soap, washing it. Is this a fork? Is it a dish? Is it this? It's that? Again, it's a little mind-numbing, but that's the point. It's to bring you back in the moment, and it's incredibly grounding. Cooking can be grounding, vacuuming can be grounding, even like I find sometimes like when you're in the shower and cleaning the shower screen, it's incredibly grounding, because instead of you sitting there or standing there, really sitting, I don't sit in the shower. If you do, that's you. But sometimes your mind can wander off and you can be thinking about 23 different things, but as soon as I'm cleaning that shower screen or wipe down those tiles, I'm focused purely on that because I want to get that shit out. Do you know what I mean? And you think to yourself, oh yeah, why was I stressed about that? The answer will come to me. It's all good. I'm, focused more so on cleaning. I love cleaning in the sense of procrastinating too. It's one of my favorite things to do, to procrastinate. Put some 80s music on and clean. So yeah, they are some two very basic techniques that you can do to ground yourself. So again, to recap, grounding. It brings you back to the current moment. It grounds your energy to earth. It removes excess energy and fills you with positive energy. It recharges you and it clears you. Easy way to do it, feet on the earth. Doesn't matter where, as long as there's no concrete and as long as you're not wearing shoes. Practice some mindfulness activities where you're just simply noticing what's around you. one thing that really works, and that is if anyone has the opportunity, is, salt water is another really grounding thing. So there's this, everyone has like salt lamps at the moment, which are fantastic. And they are actually another way in which you look at grounding and the positive effects on grounding. They release negative ions into the air to balance out the positive and, cleanse and balance. I have a heap of them around the place. I just love the glow of them too. But, if you were to sit in salt water, have a swim, or even get some Epsom salts and have an Epsom salt bath, that would be the equivalent. A 20-minute Epsom salt bath would be the equivalent of you sleeping next to a salt lamp that's turned on all night. And I don't know about you, but I can sleep with lights on because I prefer it, so that way the spirits don't bug me. But most people can't. But yeah, salt water is incredibly awesome because it does ground you. It clears those negative ions. It's positive ions, sorry. It helps cleanse your energy. And, I was talking to my mum about this a while, this week, I think, that, people in the olden days not saying her in the old days, I'm talking about her grandmother. So, I'm talking early days, is, when they felt a little off, a little out of it, they would have an Epsom salt bath. The magnesium in it would clear their energy, ground them. And who's to say, look, I'm not saying that they didn't know the metaphysical concepts of this, but I'm also not saying that they did. I'm just saying that they knew it felt good. And isn't that what this is all about? Like what doing spiritual energy work or soulful work should be all about, which is, to feel good, to recharge our souls, to feel lighter, to feel better. It's not about, ascending to a point where you're better than someone else, that holier than thou crap. It's literally about having your own just lighter moments each day. And that's what these people realized. Made them feel good. So, that's grounding. Now, people might say to me, well, why are you talking about grounding, Angelo, when you yourself can't be grounded? So, yes, the big elephant in the room is I do find it hard to ground myself or my energy. And it's not because of the fact that the techniques I told you previously or the concept is wrong, but it's purely because I do put myself in the position of working with spirit. I am at the mercy of a lot of higher level frequencies and energies and in general just riff-raff spooks that mean that I'm more inclined to get a bit discombobulated out of it because of just being me, or because the work I'm doing, when I do channel spirit and I go up there and I'm all woo, it does mean that, I find it hard to be grounded. So I have to take the extra step, and that's where I'm talking about anchoring. So with grounding, simple idea, is that you are grounded. You are putting your feet on the earth and you are growing roots into the earth and you are grounded, You are the tree. If you want to visualize it, grounding is like you becoming a tree. And it's actually really funny because I remember there's these oracle decks, self-published oracle decks from America, and they called it rooting. And I remember saying to the person who created them, I'm sorry, but if I'm going to help sell these, I can't call it rooting because that means something completely different in Australia. I'm going to call it grounding. But basically, they had a beautiful concept that, rooting is where you grow roots into the earth and you are grounded. So I'm going to stop saying rooting. That's grounding. Now, anchoring. Anchoring is where you are essentially dropping an anchor into earth, more advancedly so earth crystalline grid, energetically, of course. And then while you're up there floating off in the dimensions or the other spaces or up in the stratosphere like I do with the angels and the galactics, I am throwing another anchor to their world. Essentially, when you look at it, you got Earth on one side, the higher realms on the other, and I am beautifully balanced in the middle, anchored between. So that's what I call anchoring. Now, I don't recommend this for everyone because it can be a bit confusing, but if you are interested in anchoring techniques, I was actually thinking of releasing a special episode of this podcast where I just take you through an anchoring exercise. It'll be very short and sweet, but it's something that if, you ever, you do find it difficult to ground, or you are interested, whatever your intentions, it'll be really helpful that you can then play that as much or as little as whenever you want to do it. It's something that I teach my people that come and do spirit development work with, because it's something that, it builds onto other activities and to other processes, reaching those realms and dimensions. But for today's purposes, I personally find it hard to ground. I do all those different techniques. I'm still up there, so then I take it a next step further and I anchor. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you are like me or if you're not like me, who cares? Who gives a flying crap? It's your journey, it's your life, and it's your energy. So do not take it that I'm, trying to say that I am better than or more than, just simply different, because I can't ground. A lot of people out there who are more advanced than me and who are friggin' amazing, who I look up to, can easily ground. They can call in grounding earth dragons to work with them, and they find it quite a simple thing to ground. They don't need to anchor. So it just shows different things work for different people. But here's grounding and anchoring are just two really awesome basic steps to help you with your everyday life, and if you want to take it further, with your everyday spirit work. So I hope that this has helped you. I hope that this has also, opened up your eyes to, the idea that, we are all energy, and the earth is an incredibly grounding piece of rock, you know what I mean? And when you do find those moments of being a little discombobulated, being out of it, being overwhelmed, remove yourself. Go and take a walk outside barefoot. Go and sit on the beach, sit in a park, have a saltwater bath. I know I've even known people to actually throw Epsom salts in the shower. So you're just standing on it as they shower. Have a swim, or even wash the dishes. Come back to this reality and just anchor yourself back into today. Do this, whenever you remember. And I guarantee you will definitely feel lighter. You'll feel that little bit more confident in, able to take on the day. And just that little less... I can't even explain the word. It's like, the hairs on fire thing. Just that little bit less frazzled. It will definitely work. So yes, ground, basic stuff, but magic happens in the basics. Let's not get so caught up in the spiritual, superfluous, spectacular stuff. Bring it back to basics and just ground each day. So thank you for listening to today to Ground Control Do You Copy. If you're interested in more ways in which you can ground or the science behind it, reach out, send me a message, send me an email. Follow me on Instagram, the.AngeloThomas, or on Facebook, Angelo Thomas Medium. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it so you can hear some upcoming guests that I've got coming up. And also, take this as your daily reminder to just come back to reality and ground. So thanks, guys. Have fun and see you later.